my name is Jordan Nimshow for the Philadelphia Business Leaders Series. Today my guest is Emily Denney, Head of Global Communications for West Pharmaceutical Services. Thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's just dive in. What is West Pharmaceutical Services?
So West Pharmaceutical Services is actually a leading manufacturer of drug packaging and delivery systems for injectable medicines across the world. So to give you an example, every day we make 110 million parts or components to either drug packaging or delivery systems that go into pharmaceutical products that are then consumed by patients across the world.
So like the vials and the syringes, that's all, like you make all the products?
If you think about an injectable medicine that's either in a vial or in a syringe, the different components that go into packaging that drug in the vial. We don't actually make the vial,
right,
but we do make all of the packaging that goes around it, and some delivery systems that then take a pre-filled syringe, for example, and make sure that the medicine gets safely into patients.
Okay, and then can you sum up your job description based off of West Pharmaceuticals as a whole?
Sure. So I lead our global communications team. So we have a team of about 9 who span the entire globe. We have a team here in Exton, Pennsylvania, where we have our headquarters, and then we also have a small team in Germany, which is our international headquarters.
Oh, so you have 9 here, and then more people in Germany?
Oh, no, 9 total.
Oh, okay.
9 total. And then we have a couple of people who kind of do some contract work or a little bit of communications as part of their job, sort of a network of folks who are responsible for communications across the entire West enterprise.
So you have a very busy day.
Yeah, it's a busy day because
Really?
it's a pretty lean team actually.
Yeah.
When you think about corporate communications teams, and we're responsible for all of the marketing communications, corporate communications, product PR, and all of the financial communications that come out of the company. So it's a great deal of responsibility that we have for a pretty small team, but we think we do a pretty good job of getting the job done on a regular basis.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Can you take us on your career path? Like, what was your journey into your present position?
Sure. So I studied communication actually at the University of Delaware, but I didn't actually start as a communication major.
I don't think anyone ever does.
I started as a biology major actually. I was really interested in biology, and once I got into it, I didn't really think that I wanted to pursue a career in science.
Yeah.
But I really liked science still, and I'd actually taken some communication courses, and I really liked communication. And I thought to myself, maybe there's a lot of people in the world who are good at communication, and a lot of people who are good at science, but maybe not as many who are good at both.
I never would have thought to put them together, honestly.
So I really was targeted in my job search for jobs where I could work in a healthcare setting or in a highly scientific setting. And luckily, I was in Delaware, and I got to work at a company. I did an internship at a company that was then called Zeneca. It went on to merge with Astra and become AstraZeneca, one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
And I got a chance to work there for 16 and a half years doing all sorts of different jobs within the company, from product PR to corporate PR. I worked on mergers and acquisitions. I got to work in London at our international headquarters in the business and financial media.
How long were you in London?
I was there for 2 years.
You've been everywhere.
Yeah, well, that was a wonderful experience because working internationally gave me like a whole new perspective of what it was like to work for the U.S. subsidiary, which I then went back to. And it was a wonderful just sort of opportunity to live in a different country, and I was there with my husband. We were newly married. We traveled all around the world, so it was an amazing opportunity. I came back to AstraZeneca in the U.S., and I did some additional jobs, both on the corporate and the product side again. And my last job there was actually leading the external affairs team. We were responsible for all of the corporate philanthropy, volunteerism. We ran the political action committee. We also did state government affairs for Delaware and for Pennsylvania, and we managed a $50 million foundation for the company as well.
That's amazing.
It was great.
I feel like you're very fulfilled.
Yeah, it was a great experience because it was sort of the other side of PR. Oftentimes in public relations, you're talking about the great work that your company is doing. In this role for external affairs, we had a chance to actually be the ones who were doing that good work that then my communication colleagues were communicating about. So it was really, when you think about the study of public relations and stakeholder management across all of the different stakeholder groups, it was really important for me to get that experience on the government and community affairs side of things, in addition to our traditional communication audiences. And then I'd been there for such a long time. I had a wonderful career, but I was looking for sort of the right opportunity to maybe take that next step.
How do you make that switch from 60 years to come here? Like that's crazy.
It was a big decision to make, but I'm so happy I did it. I came to West Pharmaceutical Services last year in June, so I've been in this role for about a year and a half. And the great part about this job is that I get to use all of the tools that I have in my tool chest to make sure that I can bring value to this business.
Yeah, you're probably so well prepared.
Yeah, I do feel really well prepared, and I've got a great team, and we work every day to make sure that we're looking after all of the different communications that come out of the company.
Yeah.
And it's a big responsibility, but it's great fun, and every day is different, which is one of the things I love about working in communications and public relations.
Yeah, on one of our previous phone calls, you're like, people normally come to me like to make these decisions, like everyone comes to you, right?
Well, right, yeah. I mean, we have folks who are approached for media interviews a lot of the time. Oftentimes, we are the spokesperson, but not the interviewee. So it's sort of like the tables are turned.
There you go. Well, I'm happy to be doing it. All right. What makes handling the global communications function for a pharmaceutical company different than other industries? Like, you're not really PR for a person. You're PR for a whole company. Yeah.
So there's a lot of similarities, for pharmaceutical PR as it would be for any large multinational company. But I think some of the things that differentiate pharmaceutical PR from others is that it's a highly regulated industry.
Yeah.
And so what that means is that you have to be really careful about the language that you use. It has to be carefully reviewed by your legal and regulatory colleagues within the company, so you have to be really good partners with them. And it's also highly technical. So, the information that you are charged with communicating about is very scientific.
Right, so you're not in layman's terms, you're like serious scientific terms.
Right. So you need to take the time to see if you can try and translate this to an audience so that they understand what they're talking about.
So it's digestible, right.
At the same time as sort of keeping the integrity of this very scientific information.
Yeah.
Equally, thinking about internal communications for a company that's highly scientific or in the pharmaceutical industry, you have like sort of a diverse population of employees who are scientists and manufacturers, and they like to absorb information in slightly different ways than, say, a commercial person would. So it's just about managing all of that, all of those different sort of aspects. But it's but any company, I assume, has I've come here and realized that we are a manufacturing company for the pharmaceutical industry. So we have both the high science, but we also have a very intense manufacturing culture, which is different as well. Like how do you
mend them together?
Yeah, we've got 27 sites across the world of manufacturing plant employees that we need to think about and what's important to them and how does their job, they might make one specific thing at that plant, but how do they feel good about being part of a company that's doing all sorts of other things too. So
there's so many people.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many people that you need to take care of.
That's right. Well, there are.
Living in the social media age, how does your team use social media to promote the firm?
Yeah. So it's interesting, social media I think is pervasive now, and it's a lot different for a B2B company to use social media than it is for a B2C company. So if your consumers, are tweeting about you on a regular basis, that's a lot more challenging than what we have to cope with. But we still want to make sure that we're utilizing social media tools because everybody is on social media now. So to ignore it would be not smart.
Yeah, I don't feel like people are slamming like your syringes. Like that's probably...
Well, maybe. There's definitely, people definitely use, I think, social media in all sorts of different ways. And it's still evolving. But we do use social media, and we use our website as well. Our website is like our major digital tool, and then we drive people to the website using Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and also YouTube. And actually, one of the more interesting projects that we started this year that I'm really proud of is a program called West on the Road. And what we've done is we've gone to these plants, some of these manufacturing plants that I mentioned, and we've selected like one person at the plant, not the head of the plant, but say somebody who's in the trenches but understands the big picture. And we've kind of done a behind the scenes
filming
of that person in their job and sort of what they do on a regular basis, what makes West special in terms of our ability to produce high quality products for the pharmaceutical industry.
That's awesome.
And it's been really, it got a lot of,
it's probably really cool to watch.
It's a couple minutes,
Yeah.
and we do a couple chapters, when we try to focus
follow
on
the
different
same
things. Same person.
Cool.
One is a planteur, another one is sort of there behind the scenes of their own career, how they got to where they are, and some of the cultural aspects of the plant.
That's really
cool. And we use that on Facebook and social media, and it's gotten a great reception so far.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of your daily challenges, and how do you find that you overcome those challenges?
So I think that one of the biggest challenges that we face on a daily basis and sort of overall is when you're managing communications across a large business with a diverse number of employees, and a lot of our employees are customer facing, we call them, so they're having a chance to talk about the company to people outside of the company, is the opportunity to make sure that you're speaking with one voice. So how do you make sure that every employee who is asked about who is West tells a similar story about who we are, what we do, and why we're a good company to partner with. And so whether that's on just a regular basis, or because we're introducing a new product, or we're dealing with an issue, or we're talking about something new that's happening in the company, trying to make sure that you're dialing everyone back to that core narrative of who the company is, and what we stand for, and why we're a valuable partner is something that I think is always important, and is definitely a challenge, and something that we work on every day to make sure that we're doing it better.
You don't want two different explanations. No one's going to know really what you are.
Right. And when you have a large company that makes different things, there is a risk that the people who make that one thing see the company as this one part, and then those who make another thing see it as this. And you want people to appreciate the entire breadth of capabilities you have as a company. So that's a challenge that I think we work on every day. Another challenge that I think that all communication departments face to a degree is making sure that communication is utilized appropriately in the business. So how do you make sure that communications has a seat at the table when big decisions are being made, so that the communication strategy is something that you think of at the beginning and not at the end. And so sometimes I find that there are pockets of the company that they don't appreciate that communication could help them as much as we possibly could. Or they might have forgotten to tell communication that they're making a big speech, and they're like, wow, I didn't know that maybe I should have that checked by communication, or that communication could make it better. Or even things that we do that are valuable as a company, and some of the goodwill that we do, is happening across our company, which is great. But we also want to make sure that we're talking about that publicly and making sure that the company's getting credit for that. So that's something that I have found to be universal. It's something that when I get together with other communication leaders, we always sort of talk about this as being a challenge. But the stronger your team is, and your ability to make sure that you are talking about the value of communications and being able to articulate that and what value it would bring to the business, and doing it often, the more often that you are included in the beginning, and you do get a chance to make the most of what you can do for the company.
That's awesome. What's the best part of your job?
I think the best part of my job is seeing our team add value to the business. So whether it's after we've written an amazing speech for the CEO, or planned a spectacular event that's helped employees feel excited about some new thing that's happening, or written a really great press release that's gotten picked up in all sorts of outlets because it's so compelling and so interesting. Those are really important things to a company, and knowing that you had a hand in that very public kind of thing, either public internally or public outside of the company, I think is just a very valuable kind of thing to deliver to the business, and it always makes me feel good about the job. So every day that we get to come in and get to see our fingerprints on something really important that the business has done, and communication touches so many parts of the business. So it's actually not very hard to have that feeling on a regular basis. So that's probably my favorite part of the job.
That's awesome. No, that I feel like you're glowing about it. You love it. What strengths do you feel that you bring to your position?
So I think that for me particularly, I like to see how all the parts come together to a whole. And, some call that like kind of seeing the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that I find that I do, and I do well. But it's something that I think a lot of public relations professionals need to do, because it's all about sort of that stakeholder management approach, and how do all these different parts, our external messaging, our internal messaging, our relationships with key stakeholders, whether they be customers or analysts and investors or government or community, how does that all come together to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward as a company? And I think that that's something that I try and make sure that when we're talking as a team, we're thinking about the big picture. Mm-hmm. And I often find that that helps us to get to a better result.
Right.
I also think I'm pretty detail oriented, and I think, again, anybody in communications kind of needs to be detail oriented, because so much of what we do, again, is so public. Mm-hmm. So whether it's the email that goes to 7,000 employees all at once, or the words that are coming out of your CEO's mouth, or if it's the written word in a press release, all of that is not just a reflection of you as a worker, but it's a reflection of the company. And so being detail oriented and making sure that you're double and triple checking things is something that I'm sort of a stickler about, and I think is something that's valued and a strength of mine. And I think finally, as sort of a leader of a team, making sure that you're a good communicator. So not just the art of communication, but actually personally communicating with your team. And I try, I do that a lot. I just came from a team meeting, in fact.
There you go.
Trying to make sure that we're all speaking together and collaborating and having a good team environment. Mm-hmm. And then also equally speaking to senior leaders within the organization and letting them know how they can utilize communication more effectively is a big part of the job as well.
Okay.
So being a good communicator overall, I think, is important as well.
For sure. When you're adding somebody to your team, do you want them to have the same strengths as you, or do you want them to balance out where you feel that you're weak?
Right. I mean, I think having a diverse team of talents is really important, because everybody has sort of specialties, and even within my own team, I have some folks who are passionate about event planning. They love event planning, and I am happy for them to worry about the details of event planning. And I'm glad for it, because that's a lot of detail. And then I have some who are like really passionate about writing, and so we always have that person make sure they can spin out a wonderful sort of prose, whether it be something that we need to write internally or externally really quickly, and being able to rely upon that person. And then we've got another person who's really great at media relations. So having the diversity of people who have strengths in certain areas is great, but I also look for people who are generalists. So you can, especially in a company like this where I have a smaller team, you can't really have the luxury of just doing one thing.
No.
So you really want to make sure that you have a team who have people who can do multiple things and can kind of cover for one another, and have had a broad level of experience in a number of different aspects of communication.
Okay. And what advice would you give a student considering a career in pharmaceutical PR and media relations?
So I think that from an advice perspective, I would start with that you should focus on writing, because writing is so important.
It's everything.
And I find that some people don't enjoy the writing aspect as much. But you need to be good at the writing aspect, even if you don't enjoy it as much, because it's such a big part of all communication roles.
I agree.
Secondly, I would say if you're interested in pharmaceutical PR, if you're passionate about healthcare, then pharmaceutical PR is a great place to be, because you get to communicate like life-changing
devices,
news about medicines or devices that help get medicines to patients. And it's a real gift to be able to communicate about something that's so critically important to everybody's lives. So I always feel good, and everybody who works in a company like West, or a company like a pharmaceutical company, you'll find that there's this passion about being able to be part of a company that's helping patients to live
really
longer lives. So, and I guess that would be, so it's a highly technical field, it's highly scientific, so if you like science and want to get into the details, that's part of the job too. But the bigger part is being passionate about healthcare and passionate about being in this space. And I guess I would say that for any student who's, who's looking at any sort of career, pick something that you're passionate about. There's nonprofit work, there's other industries that are equally compelling, and being able to feel good about the things that you're communicating about on a daily basis, I think makes the job all the sweeter.
I could truly tell that you really love your job. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to do this with me.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for watching.